And it's the next day! I think he fell asleep. What? As I woke up and tried to move, my head rubbed against something tough and then smacked into the doorknob. I writhed in pain. What was going on? Did I fall asleep against the door? Was I more tired than I thought? I was glad that I didn't die at all, and this was a failure in my eyes. Sleeping in an unnatural position made my whole body hurt. I wobbled over to my fully charged phone. It was 6 o'clock. That was early morning for me. I'd have loved to just go back to sleep, but I was too curious about the feast. After washing my face with hot water and putting on my shoes, I decided to take a peek through the mail slot. Outside, I saw Chiemi standing there with a knife in hand. I reflexively stepped back, tripped, and fell on my ass. What the hell was that? There was a woman standing before my room with a weapon. I'd only caught a glimpse, but that was enough to conclude that I was dealing with a scene straight out of a horror movie. What could have prompted this? Did she suspect I was a wolf, or was she a wolf herself? She knocked on the door, making me squeal a bit.
Harouki-san, 起きてる?
Would she kill me if I replied?
ハルアキさん起きて。他のみんなの様子を見て回るから付き合ってほしいんだ。
Will we be asked to make a decision here?
ちなみに私は現在凶器を所持してますが、ご信用につき心配なきよう。
紛らわしい。
Okay, so we're not given a chance to choose anything. We're not asked to make a choice.
あ、起きてた。大丈夫、大丈夫。ほら、凶器はちょっと離れたところに置きました。
And then the moment we open the door, she'll stab Harouki to death. Or not. I hesitantly peeked through the main slot and saw her hopping around, showing me her empty hands. After meeting up with Chiemi, we went around their dorm and woke up the students. All of them were alright. While they got ready, we went to the Nosato mansion, just cause it was close. Yasumizu was still misty and unpleasantly silent. I walked carefully, just like yesterday morning. I couldn't write off the possibility that a werewolf would jump out of the mist and tear me apart. It'd be over for me. I was walking ahead, dragging Chiemi by the hand, careful about where I was going. If something happened and I got eaten or something, Chiemi could either fight back or run away. She'll probably throw the knife at the wolf and then run away. Is someone there?
あ、野里さん。夫妻子とちえみちゃんです。
どこだ？そこか。
We peered through the mist and a gloomy frown appeared.
いやー、どうも。
屋敷は大丈夫だったみたいですね。
当然だろう。屋敷には古臭いながらもセキュリティ設備が設けられている。
And then he'll die the next day.
侵入できるとは思えんね。
そっか。じゃあみんなで避難させてもらえます？
He'll say no.
なぜそんなことをせねばならんのかね。
See?
これは安水の問題だろう。
そっか、そうですよね。じゃあ安水の問題解決のため、とっとと下に降りてます。
待ちたまえ。一緒に動かないと危険だろう。
You just argued with yourself right there, Kiyonosuke. You told us that we shouldn't be in groups, and now you're telling us that we should be in groups. Really, I was beginning to think that this guy was best described as all bark, no bite. Though prideful and vain, he wasn't as smart as he claimed to be, as shown by his inability to take charge of the feast. Also, his fuzzy attitude was probably just him making up for his fear. It was entirely possible he was just putting on an air that the mystery of Yasumizu, or rather Fujiyoshi, was actually... and that the mystery of Yasumizu, or rather Fujiyoshi, was actually scaring him. That might be the case. His attitude might just be his defense mechanism. Anyway, we went downhill and met up with the students.
慣れた道でも不気味なもんだね。
Yes, especially if you can't see where you're going.
だね。霧って不思議だ。これなら脱いでも怒られない。
やめろ、若者。
Haru Makishima was acting weird. Mochi was definitely expecting a retort from her. She didn't say anything, and her face was so pale you could tell through the mist. Hanging her head, she was lightly shaking. Everyone else could see it too, but no one chose to address it. Questions would quickly become suspicions, after all. Perhaps she was a wolf and did something horrific last night? As we all thought similar things, she suddenly collapsed to the ground.
大丈夫かハルちゃん。
触らないで。
Her hoarse scream shocked everyone.
ハルちゃん。
兄ちゃん、違う。ごめん。だけど。
Let me guess, she wants to be alone.
そうだよね。神経質にもなるよ。足元に気をつけて。
We then slowed down. Haru-chan, not touching anyone's hands, was at the rear of the group. As we walked, trees and stones drifted in and out of visibility through the surrounding mists. Our vision was so limited, it felt like the world around us was changing with every step we took. A tunnel of trees, a path on the paddy field, a stone platform, a concrete stairway. We walked between realms every passing second. I was still wondering about Haru-chan. What was on her mind? Was she afraid or wary? After descending for a bit, we arrived at the plaza.
みんな無事ね。
Oh, that's a surprise. He is still alive. Takumi is still alive. That is if one of the werewolves didn't go and, swap skins. Yeah, they can do that. Apparently, they can take over the persona or the look of a person. They can mimic a person and act like them, even though, that person is already dead. We met 2 more people in front of the dining hall.
ご老人方は朝寝坊かね。
ばあちゃんは身支度中だ。体調が良くねえらしい。
Interesting.
これから来てねえ連中のところを回る。キヨ、お前はついて
So
こい。
if Takumi is, still Takumi and isn't or hasn't been swapped with the werewolf, then I could only think of one other person who could have fallen during the night, who could have died. If Tai-san is still alive, that leaves one other elder who could have been killed. And if I were one of the werewolves, I would have targeted that person as well.
なぜ君が私に命令す
Why
る
not?
男手がいるかもしれねえからだ。不妻子、悪いがあんたも頼むぜ。
Why? What's going on? This was the first time he'd ordered me to do something, but it wasn't a situation where I could be happy about him relying on me.
ええ、もちろん。
Or could it be that someone tampered with, he was tasked, or he did promise to look into one person. What if he changed his mind? What if he didn't keep his promise and investigating this dude? The noisy one, I forgot the name. He probably had a bad feeling. Namely, that he wouldn't be able to rely on a certain someone ever again. As I passed by Kaori-san, I heard her whisper.
あのね、安永、ちょっといい？
何母さん。
義継を探してほしいの。
Yoshitsugu's
離れに
missing.
いないようだから。
Really? Everyone probably had a bad feeling about this. The 3 of us guys checked the houses. Yasunaga-kun, Chiemi, and Mochi walked around the settlement. We'd agreed to split up and start searching. The misty village was silent. I couldn't hear anyone chatting. I'd seen these buildings from the outside, but it was my first time actually walking in. The shabby buildings built using blackened planks were more or less buried in vegetation. Some were on the verge of collapse. The way their frames jutted from the mist reminded me of the carcasses of giant beasts. I walked on a line between the grass. A footpath, surely. I often heard something small a small jump in the grass. It was probably just some bugs or frogs, but it still made me flinch. Just how big would the bug be for you to be able to hear, them jumping around?
リカ子さんはここに住んでいるのだったか。
I doubt she's dead.
ああ、そこんちだ。
くそ。なんだって彼女がこんな場所に住まねばならん。
お前が知らねえんだったら、俺らが知るわけねえだろうが。身車あたりの指図じゃねえのか？
私が知る限りでは、彼女が休みずに移ったのは自主的とのことだがね。第一必要
Now
がない。
that seems like a curious piece of information. Like it's an important piece of information. At the same time, I feel like one of the things that make it hard for me in this game is memorizing everyone's names. I mean, I can't remember what everyone looks like, but I cannot remember for the life of me the name of each and every character. The only exception is, of course, Chiemi, because we've seen her so many times and we know who she is because she's like one of the first characters we've met in this game. But apart from that, all these other villagers, I can't remember their names. I can't tell one from the other if you just tell me the name of the character and not include a face or a bust of them. Okay, why is there no voice? Maybe she knew the mist was coming and came to cast a spell or something to keep it away. That sure didn't work though.
室匠。私ならともかく、彼女を相手にあんまり口が過ぎるんじゃないかね。相手は上藤吉の長者の正統だぞ。
That makes it even more curious that a legitimate Kami Fujiyoshi family head, which I'm guessing is someone very, 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 very important, in the hierarchy of people in Kami Fujiyoshi and Yasumizu would, go to this place voluntarily, a place where ostracized people are thrown. So why would she do that? I believe she knows some things, she has some answers, but before we can uncover any of them, it's gonna take us a while.
あいつ自分で言ってたろうが、宴になりゃみんな食われんだよ。
リカ子さん、リカ子さん、ご無事ですか？
If there's a killer on the loose and you're shouting like that, then giving away your position, I wouldn't be surprised if you die. Apparently, Takumi-san didn't like the Uematsu family or the four head families in general. Now that I thought about it though, she wasn't as disliked as Kyonosuke. The villagers in general weren't fond of Rikaku Uematsu. Really? It seemed like a pretty obvious outcome though. Yasumizu was a settlement for the ostracized. It was impossible for a member of one of the head families who openly spurned them to form a good relationship with the locals. That's weird. I actually thought that she had a good relationship with them, or at least that they respect her, as compared to that other guy that we're with. Again, I can't remember the name. What's the name? Let's check the log. Kiyonosuke. Compared to Kiyonosuke, I feel like Rikako is more respected by these people. So it's kind of weird that the game is telling us that it's actually the other way around. Rikako-san emerged before too long. She was wearing her usual strange getup, and she didn't seem any different from how she looked yesterday.
メイコを連れて行きませんと。
We moved on to the next house. It felt like Rikako-san was urging me, so I woke the girl up.
メイコちゃん、朝だよ。
Well, I couldn't imagine Rikako-san raising her voice, while the other two probably didn't feel like they had to get involved with the girl. After a few calls, she finally came out, still half asleep. Why do you keep on, mimicking a sheep? Is this some kind of symbolism or something?
メイコ、よかった。
キヨ、二人を食堂まで連れて行ってやれ。
リカコさん、こちらへ。足元に気をつけて。
はい。
Yes. She was apparently trying to get my attention, so I turned around and said, yes, so I was right.
ごめんなさい。
About what? Her sudden apology left me completely confused. She then departed alongside the other two, leaving me alone with Takumi-san.
いいんですか？清之助さんがいなくて。
どうせ役に立たねえ。植松の坊主もどきがくたばってたら、運ばせようと思ってたんだよ。
Priestess. You really have a beef against Rikako, don't you?
もう、誰がやられたか分かったから。
The old man?
まだ、狼じじい氏の可能性も。
適当言うな！おやっさんが生きてたら誰より早起きして、とっくに休みずを3週くらいはしてるっつうんだ！
So I was right. If that is the case, I guess the werewolf and I'm probably certain that a few others of you have also thought that this is like the best strategy for the werewolves to do, is to kill one of the heads, the elders. And who else would you pick that actually had some say in the village and cause everyone panic or anger and get everyone to vote in the feast of the Yomi Purge to kill someone than, killing that old man who is one of the elders. I just forgot what that old man's name is.
すまねえ。奥野が、おやっさんの家だ。
Over where? I followed him in silence. I couldn't think of anything to say. The fact the door was unlocked made it clear that something wasn't right. The moment I opened it, my nostrils were assaulted by a smell I'd experienced just yesterday. The reek of a fresh corpse. Unlike Takumi-san, who was looking away and cursing, I did my best to burn the scene I witnessed into my memory. I felt like to avert my eyes would be disrespectful and chided myself for wanting to look away. This body was much more intact than Mamiya-san and Hashimoto-san's. Actually, yeah, it doesn't look that gruesome and brutal, compared to that scene we were given with the two reporters. That made it much easier to become painfully aware of the fact that this was a human, an intelligent life form who was with us yesterday like it was no big deal. There was one problem though. The part of the body that used to be the head was completely destroyed. Okay, so I changed, so it's really still not that gruesome if you think about it, compared to, again, what happened to the two reporters that were mauled. They didn't really look like they were human still. There was no part of the head left untouched. It was that thorough. It was obviously the result of relentless, heavy, blunt attacks. Everything above the neck was just a strange, flat mass of shattered skull fragments and white and red organic matter. Like, you mean the brain? Compared to it, everything else was largely unharmed. Now, that's curious though. Why would the werewolves leave the body in such a state? Compared to how they did with the reporters. Is there some importance to that? Are they trying to send a message like he was they smashed his head because he represented the brains of the entire Yasumizu village, and I didn't manage to read that line because I accidentally pressed the L button, which auto progresses the text. But yeah, the old looking clothing and unexpectedly robust chest for someone his age were all the proof needed to know that this was the body of Kanso Makishimashi.
片付けるんですか？
当たり前だろ。
少しだけ時間をください。
Are you gonna investigate?
どうする気だ？
Are you gonna act like what this CSI crime scene investigator? Just how equipped are you in investigating the scene of the crime? Since we had no idea when we could get out of here, protecting the scene of the crime for an official investigation meant we had to leave this body to rot here, and we just couldn't do that. And considering the horrible state it was in, the villagers probably wanted to take care of it their own way as soon as possible. Not much I could do to stop that. Thus, I did my duty as someone without such obligations. This corpse was completely unlike the ones from yesterday. My point. While those two were destroyed completely, the damage on this one was focused on the head. Again, I feel like it's symbolism. It's a symbolism. It was done intentionally. Perhaps the werewolves or the werewolf who killed Kanzo is trying to deliver some sort of message to the villagers, to the humans that are living in Yasumizu. The weapon clearly wasn't sharp. They'd used something blunt. The skin on his face was torn, but not sliced apart, and the skull was shattered. This was caused by repeated blunt attacks on the head. It wasn't my job to picture whether there was some profound grudge in this. The only clear thing here was that the wolves killed him using something blunt, not claws or fangs. And it was obviously done with dedicated intent, not accidentally. At the very least, the entity that made this corpse wasn't the same as the one that made the ones from yesterday. So that's interesting. So that may be pointing us that there's a human actually involved in this murder. Perhaps the werewolf didn't shift into a werewolf, but was a human when they attacked Kanzo, or it was actually a human that attacked Kanzo. Which is it? It made sense if you separated them and assumed that yesterday's was the corruption and today's was the wolves. But we saw the wolf. But the thing I'd seen when I was walking around at night that time had the appearance of a wolf. Yes, precisely. We saw the wolf. So I think it's safe to assume that the wolf is responsible for the deaths that happened to the two reporters. Or rather, a werewolf. If the werewolves were the ones bringing the corruption, the tale all this was based on would make even less sense. If the corruption was Great Lord Shinai's, the mountain god's, punishment, it'd be weird for it to be delivered by the wolves. Holding back my nausea, I looked back at the corpse. Then, I rolled back my sleeves and reached for the destroyed head. Mad props for you there, for being able to do just that and not puking all over the place at how I imagine, how I imagine the whole place smelled. And the closer you are to the corpse, the more intense the smell would have to be. And being able to hold in, your own bile at this, that's pretty impressive. And also, I can't help but questioning how you're able to do that.
おい、何を？
ないと思いますが、一応調べます。
Do you have some sort of theory, Harouki? Decapitation meant body doubles. Mystery writing 101. Yeah, that's true. You could get a different person or find a different person that matches another person's body, cut that other person's head off and dress him the way that other person you want to, you know, to make a to pretend for that you want the dead body to pretend as, and no one would be the wiser. So yeah, that makes sense. If someone brought in, but then again, how can you hide another person in the village? Because again, no one can leave, and I assume no one can enter the village as well. But yeah, how would you find a body double in a village that has so little population that everyone knows who everyone is? So that's kind of an interesting thing, that he thinks that someone, you know, has a body double of Kanzo. If someone brought in and killed a person with a similar build to Kanzo-shi's, then left him here, his death could easily be fake.
肝臓さん、下顎に銀歯ありました？
I never noticed.
いや、ねえよ。
His voice was strangely forced. I looked at him and realized he was kinda pale. I might have overdone it. Still, I couldn't be soft in this situation.
おやっさんは60過ぎて差し歯も何にも入れてねえの自慢してたから。あったのか？
いえ、誘導を避けるための質問です。健康な歯がびっしりですよ。
What do you mean prevent any misdirection?
なんだよ。
The lower jaw was mostly intact, while the upper one was destroyed along with the rest of the head. Despite that, I saw a hint of the old man in the eyebrows and the dark hair with streaks of gray in them. It was pretty clear it was the one and only Kanzo Makishimashi, so it was probably pointless to keep thinking about the way he was injured. You know, if it was pretty clear that it was Kanzo, then why would you ask that question about the silver tooth to Takumi? I don't understand you, Harouki. My hands were all messy. I'd have to wash them later. Now imagine if there was no longer any water flowing into the village. The corpse aside, Kanzo-shi was lying on some thin bedding, and there was no sign of a struggle. He was either instantly killed by the first attack or knocked out, laid here, and then killed. Still, it wasn't a corpse that was easy to make. The situation here was peculiar. One point I found curious was the fact that Kanzo-shi surely obeyed the shelter law and locked himself in. However, the lock on the door was still perfectly intact. So, are you saying that whoever killed him came in from the door, was already inside his room, probably waited until he fell asleep and then, you know, killed him, then left? So logically speaking, Kanzo-shi had opened the door and let the culprit in. There was no sign of resistance, so it was probably done by someone he felt safe with. Or, again, my own theory that whoever it was hid inside his house, provided there is some place to hide. Otherwise, yeah, this is the only explanation. We don't know what the house actually looked like. However, if this was a normal killing by the standards of the Feast of the Yomi Purge, then this was definitely made possible by something unnatural. Back to the situation at hand. The futon and everything around it were bloody, obviously, but there was another strange thing about the crime scene: the dampness. Some spots were really wet, and clearly not because of the mist. It was like the murderer purposely spread some water here. Were they trying to wash away the blood splatter on them? But there was no point in doing it in front of the body. Or maybe, you know, I'm thinking of this mystery in a way that I do with the cases in Detective Conan or Case Closed. Because in those, some of the cases there that I've read, one way you could make this sort of crime scene is if you use a very, 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 very large and heavy block of ice. But then again, if you use that, how would you have hidden it? Because I'm thinking block of ice because again of the dampness or wetness that Harouki mentioned. But yeah, I think it's a long shot that is actually a block of ice that killed a very large and heavy block of ice, mind you, that killed Kanzo-san. The footprints were faded. Were they trying to cover their tracks? They were still pretty visible though. It was more like they put bloody footprints on a futon and tatami that was already wet. The shape of the prints told me they weren't made by Western shoes, Japanese clogs, or wild beast. Or okay, so another thing that this could be is that maybe Kanzo woke up earlier, you know, than everyone else, made rounds, and then he met up with someone, and that someone killed him, and then brought the corpse back to his house. The futon would be explained by the culprit wrapping him in that or something so that they could carry him back to his house. I don't know. Again, I'm just throwing stuff out there and thinking my thinking sort of very, very, very much into how, again, Detective Conan cases are. They were just long ovals, reminiscent of those made by Zori sandals. I don't know what a Zori sandal is. I'm gonna look that up. There weren't many of them though. Most of the blood was absorbed by the futon. But from what I had, I could tell there was only one type of footprint.
何か分かったのか
Yeah,
よ。
he found out a lot, Takumi.
大したことは。
Really, nothing special. There are so many things you just told us, and there's nothing special about that. I feel like every bit of that is important.
だろうな。あんた、別にそっちの専門家じゃね
I'm
えんだろ。
curious as well. Do you?
ええ。残念ながら。
Then what would give you the expertise or even the experience to, you know, think or come up with those things that you actually just told us about, Harouki? All I knew was that the culprit was a very dangerous human. So it's not a werewolf. As I washed my hands, Takumi-san removed the sliding door and put Kanzo-san's remain on it. He covered his destroyed face with a nearby hand towel and prepared to carry it.
後ろ頼む。
了解です。
We lifted it up, and yeah, this was definitely a job for two people. Obviously. Way to state the obvious, Harouki. We went out into the mist.
皿長に捨てるんですか？
ばあちゃんはそうしろって。
そうしなければ、汚れると。
あ、
So if that's what they're doing with the corpses, then how come, you know, I don't know, what's the equivalent of of the FBI in Japan? Because that is where our setting is. It's still in Japan. So why aren't anyone investigating? Or why isn't anyone investigating these corpses that are flowing down the river from this place? You'd think a lot of, I don't know, special agents and investigators would have come here by now. A voice devoid of life. I couldn't call out to him. Pushing him any further was dangerous. I could tell by the air about him.
俺のせいだ。
What gave you that impression, Takumi?
どうしてです？
俺が宴でヘマ
Because
イ
you
やったから。
admitted to being able to discern whether a person is a werewolf or not? That was entirely possible. This proved he was aware of it himself. I would have said that, but it felt wrong. Yeah, you would have been a total jerk, Harouki, if you did say it at that particular moment.
僕にはよくわかりませんが、少なくとも匠さんがご自分なりにベストを尽くそうとされてるように見えますよ。
だからって、失敗したら何にもなら
If you
ね
mess up, then just, stand back up. Keep trying. As long as you're alive, there's still hope.
じゃあ、取り返さないと、ですね。これからは多分、あなたが安水をまとめていくことになる。
Yes, be a leader to your people. Try to get everyone out of there alive.
無理だ。
Why? Why can't you? Well, I couldn't either. I was just an outsider, so I had no idea how to console him. Feeling powerless, we approached the dining hall. We'd pass by here and go straight for the graveyard. Tai Yamawaki-san had come out too. She in the midst of prayer. Or is it she's in the midst of prayer? Kaori Oribe-san was standing next to her. She looked completely out of it. Rikaku Uematsu was covering Meiko's eyes and looking straight at me. Haru-chan, Kanzo-san's actual granddaughter, was watching her grandfather's corpse with an intense expression. You're really suspicious right now, Haru. It probably wasn't good to make any assumptions here, but I couldn't help it. Neither can I. And I feel like some of you are also thinking the same thing. I felt like her expression was full not of unbearable sorrow, but of anger, hatred, and disgust. I'd never seen them have a nice chat, so I wouldn't have been surprised if they didn't see eye to eye. But still, I'd have liked it if she made a different expression, if only for this moment. I could only think that because I was an outsider who didn't know shit. It wasn't good to make assumptions. Shit. Why was I in this position? Just how much could I even learn in my position? But as it turned out, I was still underestimating the situation. How so?
よし君がどこにも
We
いな
can't
い。
find Yoshi-kun anywhere. Okay. Yoshi-kun, if I remember correctly, he's the kid who likes to dress in dresses, right? We met Chiyami on the way to the graveyard. She and the two high school guys were still searching. Oh no, two high school guys. No, so he's not. Oh, he is the rough one. The one that's acting all badass but really isn't. She and the two high school guys were still searching, but the mist made it extremely difficult. We told her we'd join once we buried Kanzo-san and picked up our pace. The graveyard wasn't that far. Yasumizu wasn't very big. It only felt like it because of the mist or the load. Oh my gosh. That was a surprise. He was alright too, huh? I had no idea why, but he was looking at us, clapping and laughing. That meant that Yoshitsugu Oribe-kun was the only one we hadn't seen yet. I was told there'd be only one. The wolves are supposed to kill only one person per night. Then why were there two deaths the previous day? I'm so confused with the rules right now. I'm not sure if it's the actual rules of the game or if it's the translation that's making things a little bit more confusing than it has to be. Not saying a word, I hurried to finish the job. That led to us finding him early. Oh crap. Yoshitsugu-kun was on the shortest path to the cliff in the grass of the graveyard. Though Takumi-san had only noticed him by chance. That's brutal. That's pretty brutal. That was how deep in the grass he was. And how many pieces of him there were. It reeked of death too, but it was mixed with the smell of trampled grass and a strange, beastly odor. Now this, I could believe, was done by the werewolves. The other death, Kanzo-san's death, that doesn't feel like it was done by the werewolves. Maybe not all the blood around here was his. Unlike Kanzo-san, he left clear proof of a tough battle and intense pain.
よし。お前、根性あったよ。
Mad props to him if he did in fact try to battle the werewolves, Takumi-san's voice was shaking. He picked up a soccer ball-sized object. Half-eaten and basically a shadow of what it used to be, it clenched its teeth even in death. What? So he picked up the kid's head? Half-eaten, basically a shadow of what it used to be, it clenched its teeth even in death. What the hell?
いいですか?
Takumi-san gave it, Yoshitsugu-kun's head, oh my god, to me, and I put my finger in its mouth. I was curious about what was stuck in there. What I found was a clump of beastly fur. He literally fought tooth and nail, resisting until the very end. So yeah, massive props and respect for Yoshitsugu for trying to fight, even as he knew that there was no hope in trying to fight against these supernatural forces. I mean, look at how big that beast is. Resisting what? Obviously, the being that brought the corruption. It didn't take long for the news of Yoshitsugu Oribe's death to spread across the village. I'd heard that the pain of losing one's child was beyond any description. Even so, Kaori Oribe-san broke down so badly it felt abnormal. The mild-mannered woman became a mad beast. We had to band up to keep her from running to where we found Yoshitsugu-kun's corpse. We'd already gathered it up and thrown it into Saranaga after all. Takumi-san kept a tuft of the boy's bleached hair, which she gave to Kaori-san. She instantly put it in her mouth. What the actual hell? Through her wailing and choking, she did her best to chew and swallow it. It was a wretched, gloomy, and miserable sight. It was also disgusting to think about, though it might have been an act born of ultimate motherly love. Or it was an act that was born without thinking things through? I don't know. That's really disgusting to imagine. Whatever the case, no matter the shape, it was too late to try and bring her child back into herself, not to mention absurd and pointless. That was how it looked like in my eyes.
宴をしよう。おやっさんとよしをやったやつをどうにかしないと。
His words got the attention of basically everyone present. But they didn't reach the sobbing mother and her older son, who was gently consoling her. What's up, Dreamer Tribe? What's up, world? I am Bianca, and thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed the content of this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button to let me know. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet and you want to be a part of the Dreamer Tribe, just hit on that subscribe button. We also have tons of different content here on my channel, so be sure to check those out. Until the next video, dream on, fly on.